Hey, Kevin here, Mr. DIY Dork from DIYDork.com. Today I want to show you my Ardex Feather Finish coated countertops. Now apparently within the last year or so it's kind of become a thing to do these Ardex countertops where it's basically like a skim coat of concrete on top of your old countertops or plywood like I did here or whatever. So anyway, I kind of want to show you how they turned out, how I made them, and also kind of give you a review of what I think about them. So anyway, check this out. Okay, so I just kind of want to give you a quick overview of what the countertops look like when they're finished. And what I plan on doing is actually making a coffee table very similar to how we made these countertops so that you can actually see the process, in action. But for now, just kind of explaining what we did. Okay, so real quick recap is when we redid our kitchen, we decided to put all new cabinets in and open up the kitchen a little bit, so we put a set of IKEA cabinets in. And we did not buy countertops, we decided to build our own. After we seen a tutorial about how to do this Ardex, we thought this was the way to go, so we built our own out of plywood. Now you don't have to build your own, you can use your old countertops depending on what they are. Like if they're stone or something like that, it's probably not the way to go, but if you have maybe old butcher block ones that are just stained up or cut up too much and you don't like how they look and you want something like this, it would work. Also, if you have laminate countertops, those would probably work as well, as long as you actually peeled the laminate off and got rid of all the glue. Probably have to do a little stripping and a lot of sanding, but once it's down to like the particle board underneath, it'll be perfect. You just want to make sure your countertops have, you want them smooth, but a little bit of grit to them, a little bit of tooth so that the concrete can hold to it. And you'll put enough coats on there and sand it that it'll smooth out later, but you don't want super rough. You just want, some texture to it, kind of like how particle board feels. Okay. So real quick, just to show you what we did is we actually built our countertops to be 1 1/4 inch thick, because that's about how thick most of the countertops we had seen at home improvement stores on. They were about that thick. So we actually used a 1/2 inch sheet and a 3/4 inch sheet that we screwed together, a whole bunch of screws. We didn't use glue, but you probably could if you wanted, just to be a little extra safe. And basically made them one solid 1 1/4 inch thick unit that we could then put down on top of the countertops and screw them from underneath so it was all solid. Then you coat it in the Ardex. Now this is what the Ardex looks like in a bag. This is a 10-pound bag. The feather finish, that's what you want, the feather finish. Basically inside it's just a really fine concrete powder that you mix with water into like a thick sludge that you then put on with a trowel. Now, like I said, it's a 10-pound bag. We ordered 2 of these because we did all of the countertops in the kitchen. We didn't know how much we needed. But when it was all said and done, we probably only used about half a bag. So more than likely, you'll probably be okay with just getting 1 bag of this. We got on Amazon. I don't quite remember how much it was, but it was really, really inexpensive. We bought all the plywood for the countertops. We bought the concrete and the clear coat for top, to coat the top, and it was probably only about $100 to do it all. So it was really, really affordable. So basically, like I said, you want to mix it in a bucket. We used a drill with a paddle so that it would mix quicker because it dries pretty quick. Then you get on the trowel and you just put on really thin coats. The first couple of coats, you're still going to see the exposed wood underneath. It's just going to kind of look like you're whitewashing it, but eventually it'll start to build up. Basically, you put on a coat, you let it dry, then you take a pretty fine sandpaper. It seemed like we used about 200 grit, something like that. I don't quite remember right now. And we just smoothed it out, some of the rough spots, wiped away the powder, and put on another coat. Just kept building it up till it was almost a 1/4 inch. We probably were a little under a 1/4 inch, and we probably should have went to the 1/4, because I feel that ours were a little thin. I'll show you here in a minute. But basically, you put on the coat, let it dry, sand, coat, sand, dry, till it's where you want it, and it will get this mottled look. And that's because when you're troweling it on, you sand it, it just kind of gets a splotchy look. Okay. Then when it's all done, you seal it with concrete sealer. We use satin here so that it wouldn't be too shiny. And you basically just put this on with a sponge, and you do several coats. I don't remember how many we did now. It seems like it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 coats. And the tutorial that I originally found, that's all they did, and it looked great. I found that we needed more than that, and I'll explain all that here in a second. Okay, so I just want to give you an idea of what kind of texture it has. As you can see, there's a little bit of texture to it. It's not super rough, but it's not like completely smooth like a laminate countertop or something like that. It has a little bit of texture to it, and then a really, really cool mottled look, like I said, and a lot of scrape lines and scratches from sanding, and you can kind of see where the trowel marks are and all that, and it's just a really cool look. But now I want to show you some of the thin spots and some of the things I'd probably change if I had to do it again. Right, so like I said, you want to build it up probably a little thicker than you think it would. I thought it looked okay, but once we put the clear coat on, we noticed that some of the plywood underneath was showing through. Because once you sand it, you know, you're getting rid of some rough spots. You don't realize how thin it can start to get, but you can see a little bit of wood showing through there. It's barely noticeable, but I know it's there, so it bothers me every time I see it. But you just want to make sure it's a lot thicker than you think, so that when you sand it, like a final, you know, smooth down, that it will turn out okay and you're happy with it. And let me show you another thing that I'm not crazy about. All right, so I'm gonna give you a better view of all the countertops now that we built. And when we pieced them together, we had to figure out the way to make them the strongest that we could so that they wouldn't move and shift and crack at joints and that type of thing. So we even did a waterfall edge. So this edge over here is totally solid except for the top 1.25 inches. That's actually this piece right here. So it overlaps a little bit. Then it's solid back here, and then right here it's all one piece. On the top layer, the bottom layer, because remember I said it was made out of a 3/4 and a 1/2 inch. The bottom layer is actually solid at the corner here, so it wraps all the way to about halfway at the sink. So I wanted this corner right here to be as strong as it could, because I knew we were going to set a microwave there. But over time, the Ardex on the top layer, because like I said, it's, you know, one piece here, and then this is one piece with a joint, and then this is one piece. Over time, the house has moved and the Ardex is cracked right at that joint, just a little bit, not very much at all, but just enough you can kind of see it, especially when you're wiping it down after cleaning. And the little crack here will get a little bit dark from, you know, a little bit of moisture getting in there. So that's something that we always keep an eye on, and I have a quick little fix for it that I'll show you in a minute. Now the other thing, this is the bigger issue I have with the Ardex and the original concrete sealer, is I don't think it was enough to protect it. As you can see right here, there's a ring. This is one of the very first, you know, kind of heartbreaks we had after doing all this work on the countertops. We sat something there, some type of bowl. I don't remember if that was just water from after we washed it, we sat it there, or if it was something cold and it's condensation, or if it was oil. I don't remember which, but it left a ring. And then you can see these other spots around. And some of these are just water spots and some are oil. So the original clear coat that I showed you in that jug that you put on the sponge, that wasn't enough to protect this. So throughout we have these spots that were not originally there. Now because it's so mottled looking, it does hide well, but we know they're there, and it's just like right here or something too. So it's a little disappointing. So what I actually did to fix that is I did a lot of research on concrete, and I found that's an issue. So what I actually did was I bought some beeswax, okay? And I found this at, I think, Hobby Lobby in like the candle making section. And what I did is I just broke off a little piece and I rub it on really tight, almost like a crayon or something, okay? Rub it on as best I could. You let it sit a while, and then I take a cloth and I buff it off. Kind of like waxing a car, but we're waxing a countertop. I know they use beeswax on some stones and things like that to help them for the same type of issue, and it does seem to help. It repels water, and it even repels oil, but you can't really set anything hot on it because it would melt, and you know, that's kind of a bummer. But it has helped a lot. I try to, I don't remember how often I do it. I probably do it maybe 4 or 5 times a year, just whenever I think of it. I just rub them down everywhere with the wax, let it sit a little bit, and then I buff it off and you know, shine it up. So that's why the counters are now shiny. They originally weren't this shiny, but that's because they're waxed, and it did help a lot, but it's still not totally perfect. All right, so anyway, that's you know, kind of my review of them. It turned out really cool. It was a simple project, but at the same time, it has some issues that are I don't know, it just depends on how particular you are about how your countertops look. We're used to it now. It is an older house. I mean, it has issues everywhere. We have plywood floors, all that kind of stuff, so little rings like that aren't going to bother me. It just shows that you use the kitchen. And it was a bummer when it first happened, but we're used to it now. I mean, it was a year ago, so once I put on the beeswax, it really helped a lot. And the only other thing I can think of is I'm still a little afraid to like put a cutting board down and a, you know, piece of meat and to really hammer at it. And I would also not do any straight cutting on this either, you know, so make sure that you have a you know, a decent cutting board. Another thing, even with the cutting board, you can kind of see the little spots there. That's from just putting heavy stuff onto the cutting board with those feet. It left impressions in the concrete. So you know, it's not as solid as poured concrete. It's not as solid as stone. You know, it's a little soft, It does look cool, but has a few issues. I've seen people that have wanted to use it in the bathroom and things like that. I don't know if I would use it in the bathroom. The kitchen is really kind of pushing it. If you just had like a downstairs countertop that you just use at parties and all that, I think it'd be fine. But in a kitchen like this, you may want to think about it before you do it. We went ahead and did it, but I think if we ever had to do the counters, I'd probably use something else. So anyway, that's our Ardex countertops. Really cool project, turned out really cool. Just depends on how much maintenance you want to put into it.